As Israel continues its campaign of aerial bombardment and ground operations to flush out Hamas operatives in Gaza, inhabitants of the Strip caught in the crossfire face a dire situation here.
With fuel reserves already dwindling, now potable drinking water is on the cusp of running out as well. Palestinians worst hit by the Israeli onslaught, such as in Rafah, are reported to be waiting hours, if not entire days, lining up for water hose to fill up their canisters. The water insufficient and barely fit for consumption, having to suffice for multiple families.
Residents report facing a dearth of even saline water to drink, with often a single hose having to bear the thirst of the estimated 30,000 Gazans spread across East and West Rafah.
Shooting down hopes of a ceasefire, Prime Minister Netanyahu has now stated that Israeli forces are considering tactical pauses to let hostages leave and aid through.
Well, there will be no ceasefire, general ceasefire in Gaza without the release of our hostages. As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here, an hour there, we've had them before. I suppose we'll check the circumstances in order to enable goods, humanitarian goods to come in, or our hostages, individual hostages to leave.
However, organizations such as the World Health Organization have now warned that not only water but fuel reserves in Gaza are being subjected to a breaking point, adding that none of the 569 aid trucks that reached the enclave were carrying any fuel. This a week after UNAID Chief Martin Griffiths claimed reported progress on negotiations with the Israeli side to send in fuel reserves with the next batch of aid.
Of the trucks that have gone in, as you know, and as Christian talked about, the latest update as of yesterday is a total of exactly 569, and that is since the 21st of October when the border crossing was opened. But none of them has contained fuel, which is still banned by the Israeli authorities.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that the IDF had encircled Gaza City with ground operations deep inside the territory. The Israeli Prime Minister maintains that Gaza will be cleansed of Hamas, while warning Hezbollah to stay out of the conflict.
אם חיזבאללה יבחר להיכנס למלחמה, הוא יעשה את טעות חייו. לא תהיה הפסקת אש בלי החזרת חטופינו.
And as the war rages on, there have been a rise in incidents of anti-Semitism and Islamophobic incidents. And my colleague Shivan brings us a report on these deep-rooted ideas. Over to you, Shivan.
Thanks, Im. Of course, these instances have been increasing over the last 1 month all over the world. Now, as the war between Israel and the Hamas militants rages in West Asia, hate speech targeting Muslims and Jews in the West are rising. Today, we take a look at the ideas of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, both of them, and whether these are a shared story in the West. First, let's take a look at what these terms really mean. And what do we mean by anti-Semitism? Let's start there. Now, according to the International Human Rights Association, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards them, refers to hostility, prejudice, or discrimination against Jews. A certain type of manifestation of this can include the targeting of the state of Israel as well. Now, anti-Semitism also includes frequently charging Jews with conspiring to harm humanity, and it is often used to blame Jews for why things go wrong. It all comes under the fold of anti-Semitism. Next, let's take a look at what Islamophobia really means. Now, according to all-party parliamentary groups, Islamophobia is rooted in racism. It is an extreme fear of and hostility toward Islam and Muslims, which often leads to hate speech, hate crimes, as well as social and political discrimination. Or it is a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslims as well. Now, Islamophobia also accuses Muslims as a group of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoings, which might be committed by a single Muslim person or a group of Muslim individuals, or even for acts committed by non-Muslim individuals. Now, with the war in West Asia has completed over a month now, the outbursts of anti-Semitism and a wave of global hatred directed against Jews has intensified by Israel's response in Gaza to the Hamas militants' attack on Israel on the 7th of October. Moreover, the recent anti-Semitism is also a reflection of how the American and Western European societies are managing it, where stability and democracy are already under pressure. Now, anti-Semitism has led to the cancellation of Jewish day schools classes. Synagogues, which are Jewish houses of worship, they've also been forced to lock their doors. Social media has pulsated with hatred against Jews, leaving a community that can never escape its historic trauma, yet again wondering where and when it can ever be safe. Even in Ivy Leagues like Harvard University and Cornell University, Jewish American students are feeling unsafe in the campuses due to the threat to their lives. Now, in the recent weeks, people have been caught tearing and taking down the posters of kidnapped Israelis. Like anti-Semitism, Islamophobia is also on the rise in the West. Muslims and Palestinian students in the US fear that the country is returning to Islamophobic levels of 9/11. Now, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights group, the group has witnessed a threefold increase in complaints about anti-Muslim violence and harassment in October itself. Many of these incidents occurred at pro-Palestinian protests with people brandished weapons at protesters or drove their vehicles into them. Moreover, the fears were brutally underscored when a 6-year-old Palestinian child was stabbed 26 times by his family's 71-year-old landlord. The man shouted, "You Muslims must die," at the child's mother, who was also injured in the attack. So while the war rages on between Israel and Hamas, instances of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism have been on the rise, yet another unfortunate consequence of the ongoing war. We're tracking all the developments right here on WION World is One and bringing you all the latest on World DNA. Back to you, Him.